Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. So today we're going to be looking at why a reboot for Warner Bros. Montreal's new Batman game absolutely makes sense. Now, many of you have heard the news. There is an article that was written by, I think, WFCC Tech or something, where they pretty much alluded to the fact that this new Batman game is not only going to be a game that is, going to be set in a shared universe, that it's also going to be a reboot of the series. Now, one of the things a lot of people have dabbled around in terms of commentary around Batman was this new game, where's the story going to be coming from? Like, how are we going to get into the entire, story? Is it going to be a continuation from Arkham Knight? Is it going to be in the middle of it? Is it going to be before Arkham Origins and blah, blah, blah? And I think it makes sense to just kick off the whole series again. I made a video just recently talking about the game being co-op based on some things in regard to hiring. And I just highlighted that it makes a whole lot of sense to do this because if you do a reboot, you follow the pattern of all these other, big franchises that have a cinematic universe as well as a video game universe, or even an animated or graphic novel universe, if you want to put it that way. So we look at Spider-Man. And look at the way that Sony actually went ahead and did Spider-Man on PS4. The game seemed like it just had like a kind of a soft reboot. They kind of picked up the story from, I think Amazing Spider-Man 2, something of that sort, but not necessarily from there because they can take the story and go anywhere that they want to go right now with it. If you notice, even if you go back to Amazing Spider-Man 2, you're going to see, Goblin himself, the Green Goblin, but then at the end of Marvel Spider-Man, you see an allusion to this so-called, I'm going to spoil it for you, the Green Goblin, in terms of Harry Osborn. So it's kind of a soft reboot in a sense, but they kind of ignored all the other Spider-Man games and just went on with what they wanted to do with Insomniac and, with Marvel, maybe guiding them to, do a canon based game. And I think we're probably going to be getting something along the lines of with this new Batman game. You're going to see characters that in the past Batman games have maybe, been taken out, or maybe characters that have died or been killed. You're going to see them show up, I think, if they're going to be using them in this game, especially with the League of Shadows. If you notice how, this so-called, dial that they released, that they teased with on Project Redacted's webpage, you're going to see symbols that allude to different factions. And some of these factions may be factions that will be returning in the sense of they're going to be factions based around specific groups or specific bosses. Now, the other emblems may not have been filled, but you also have to, remember that there are many, many storylines and lores and family lines in the Batman story universe. You have the Falcone family, you have Penguin's own family, you have the, Spirit of Arkham, who might be a character. I know a lot of people said, well, Spirit of Arkham, the person who was behind that was the warden in Arkham Asylum. He already got taken out, but now that they're doing a reboot, that might be a possibility. Now, I made a video alluding to that, and people said, well, seems like Spirit of Arkham is, just way out there. But right now, I think it leaves it open for anyone and everyone. So think about the high level of possibility. Think about Poison Ivy. Think about, the Riddler on a different level. Maybe not even using him to annoy every one of us with Riddler trophies. Maybe just using him as like a direct boss who has, all kinds of aspects of his, his fingers in the entire society that you have to deal with. Think about Black Mask actually coming to the front line and to the forefront right now. Think about Deathstroke. Even in Arkham Origins, Batman already knew about Deathstroke before that game. So if they're doing a reboot, Deathstroke could be coming from anywhere within the storyline. They could be importing aspects of stories within the universe or different alternate timelines. And if this is going to be a shared universe, then I think it goes to even almost confirm that this so-called Superman World's Finest game that was teased a while ago, or leaked or rumored, however you want to call it, I think this might also be something of, a reality than we even can think. Because if you think about it like this, there are three major studios that are working on something currently among the Warner Brothers, studios. I mean, in terms of, let's say in terms of DC Comics, there is actually, I would say four, honestly. I have not dropped that video yet, but I'll drop it very soon, hopefully. We're looking at a Batman game with Warner Brothers Montreal. We're looking at a potential Superman game, and most likely Monolith is working on this game. That would be my bet. I'll probably not bet, the farm on it, but I'll probably bet you, a handful of grass that it's possible that Monolith is working on this game. And then the possible third game that will be working with this so-called shared universe is a game that Rocksteady is developing. I think Rocksteady is probably making the world's finest game that will kind of tie up Superman, Batman, and maybe Wonder Woman in the same adventure universe. Who knows? There's probably this possibility, and I'm just making this up in my head. They might want to make a whole big deal out of this to kind of, continue timelines and make the, entire superhero universe really big. And maybe one of these studios might be working on a multiplayer style game in order to match and compete with the Marvel Avengers game. You guys, in the community have not necessarily pointed as to how that game seems to be a huge statement against the Arkham franchise, which has a lot of characters that have all not been harnessed in that sense. Now, many people may not want some kind of an MMO game, so I feel like if you have these studios working on the different games, that will provide the single player aspects of those games, and then maybe one studio out of the three can bring this MMO game to light. We can discuss that in another video, but it shows that there's something going on, something brewing. And now, being a reboot, you have the endless possibility of curating a new story, a brand new plot for yourself that can have all the individuals, in it without any questions. Many people have, asked and said, how are they going to follow the Court of Owl's story? How are they going to bring the Red Hood? What's going to be, happening with Batgirl? All these questions that you have, and Robin and Nightwing and all that, I think it will be easily resolved by starting afresh. And I think with the whole management shifts that took place, I think they needed to come down with a resolution to say, what direction are we going to go? I don't think with a studio like this, making the game is a big task for them. Yes, making video games is a big task, yes. But when you have a studio with about 300 employees that are one-track minded, most likely working on one specific game, I think with all that talent and judging by what they did with Arkham Origins, which I feel is actually the better of all the Arkham games, I know that's a controversial statement. I don't think making a game that actually does a good job is difficult for the studio. I think what has been happening have been internal rumblings as to what direction they want to go and how they also want to bring all the other studios in with it. So all of this is now starting to make a whole lot of sense. If Rocksteady had gone ahead and made maybe some other game, somewhere else, and if maybe Monolith had gone ahead and started making more Middle-earth games or more, games around its own lore and around its own, specialty, I think Warner Brothers was probably considering how can we unify the DC universe in the gaming world and make a big, massive, franchise or a big, massive set of IPs that would actually work in the gaming franchise. I think this unification is what they're trying to work towards, and many, are still failing to consider how important this Marvel Avengers game would be. Because not only is this Avengers game designed to come out, after, all of the Avengers stuff has gone on, and even with more Avengers, cinematic stuff still in the works with, Black Widow and all that, which she's already in the Avengers game, as we've seen from the first set of reveals that was done. You have to also consider that with the Batman game, the Batman movie in the works right now, and, even with the Wonder Woman movie also in the works, these characters will need to show off, or we will need to be shown in the gaming scene, and to bring them to an MMO style game, a big DC game, might be what's on Warner Brothers' minds. Now, many people may not be fans of this, and I understand. Most people want to just get their single player game and just go on. But to be very honest, single player games right now are becoming the minority in terms of games as a whole. If you want to make a single player game, it's usually a one-off. But one thing that keeps these video games selling, that keeps money coming in, are usually the games that you can actually spend money, create the game, launch it, and then put together a crew that will support this game, a crew of developers, designers that are continuing to drop content, characters, abilities, missions, modes, new worlds to continue these games and further them. I think this is the way many games have been going for years, and if Warner Brothers has not hopped on this train by now, I think that is definitely the train that they're going to be hopping on, to at least try and see if these characters would appeal to a more bigger audience if they actually did it this way. Now, it seems a little cringy because you know how we DC folks are. Very selective, very critical. I mean, everything we nitpick, but at the end of the day, these studios have to still find a way to make money for them to be bringing these new products our way. Because if there's no money that's going to be made, they might as well go ahead and start shutting down studios, which, God forbid, no one wants studios to get shut down, because these are people who are working for a livelihood. They're children who need to be fed and all that. If you think about it from that corporate, and even economic aspect, you want, these studios to be able to, earn their keep. And so let's look at the next few, weeks. I think more things are going to continue to leak because, the lid has been placed so heavily on this information and so tight that the pressure is building up so much. The steam is just coming out. And I feel like we're probably going to get some real ginormous information come out. And so just little by little, we're getting this picture formed. The puzzle is coming together. And I think I can see exactly where these studios are going, but this is on my best guess. I do not know exactly where we'll end up, but I know that what we end up with will be, something that will surprise a lot of people. Some people might be skeptic, but at the end of the day, it's something that I feel like they're trying to do in order for them to make the most, marketing impact, the most financial earnings, and all that stuff that, and most fan, engagement, because that's what's going to drive money. That's what's going to drive sales of skins and, oh my gosh, think about all that stuff. So let's, have some more of this conversation in the comment section. I want to hear what you guys think about this. I think this is exciting, and I'm going to be, following up with another aspect of this, and I want you guys to please stay tuned. So thank you very much for your time and audience. I appreciate you guys for listening to the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.